Hey everybody, it's me, Rick Acosta, the Dodger Card Collector, coming to you with another video. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different for you. With the holidays approaching, we're already in November. I wanted to show you the baseball cards that my brother gave to me over the years as Christmas card and birthday presents. Some of us have had the privilege of inheriting our fathers or our grandfathers or our uncles' collections. I wasn't that lucky, but I did have a brother who introduced me to sports and also to sports cards. My brother collected baseball and football cards. So when I was a kid, I remember seeing cards, baseball cards from 1970, 1971, even some from 1965. And eventually he gave those to my cousin. And then a few years later, my cousin gave them to me. And he never lost an interest when it came to cards. Even in our older, now as grown men, he loved looking. He had a vinyl record collection, and but he loved looking at sports cards. So he very much admired my card collection. So let me go ahead and show you what he gave me. That Ramon Martinez card is a placeholder. That was actually given to me by my handyman. He came to work on my garage and he knew I collected cards. So he gave me that and a couple of Kirk Gibson cards. So, all right, the first card he gave me was a 1953 Topps Jackie Robinson and a PSA 2. He gave me the card raw, and I submitted these cards about 5 years ago to PSA. The one and only time I've ever done a PSA submission was about 5 years ago. And I submitted this Jackie Robinson, and it came back as a 2. So that's a good looking Jack. Okay, the next card is a 1954. I'm trying to get my thumbs out of the way here. A 1954 Topps Tommy Lasorda in an 8 off-centered. The thing that cracks me up about this card is my brother was definitely not... He bought the number, not the card. And I would tell him that. I remember always saying to him, you buy the card, not the number. He never understood that. So he bought me this card in a PSA 8, never seen that OC, that off center in parentheses underneath the 8. Years later, he would ask me, what does OC mean? And I go, off center. And I always just kind of let him know that, that changes the value of the card, but he was so pleased that he bought me an 8 that it didn't matter if it was off-centered. There's the back right there. So that was another Christmas present. And like I say, I don't know the year, so I can't tell you whether they were Christmas or birthday. Let's see. The next one here is a 56 Jackie Robinson. Again, this one was ungraded. And it came back from PSA in a 6.5. It's a white back as opposed to the gray back. And there it is there. That's a good looking card. PSA, based on the high grade, if you ever see my top 25 collection, this is the #1 card. It's actually the #2 card now, but it's the #1 card, and it's strictly based on the high grade that it got. So that's my Jack, another Jack. And the next card was a 56 Sandy Koufax. Again, he gave this to me ungraded. That was in my submission to PSA in a 4. In a 4. So that's another good looking card there. My brother ended up giving me 2 Jackies and 1 Koufax. And then that Lasorda. The last ungraded card he gave me, and it's the 1957 Dodger Sluggers card in a 7. Here's the case of when somebody gives you a gift, you keep quiet. My brother bought me this gift not realizing I already had an ungraded version of this card that was probably excellent to mint. And when he asked me what I thought of the card, I gave him a good smile and just, oh, I love it, thank you. Not realizing that the poor man had already spent money on a card I owned. And I think he never knew that I owned this card twice, but love this card. It's one of my favorites. This one is on my display wall. in my hallway. And then the ungraded version is actually in a binder with my 1957 set. Actually, I still need 2 more cards, so I shouldn't say I have the set. All right. And then the last card I'm going to show you, I always remember when I submitted these cards, he would ask me every day, did you get the grades? Did you get the grades? He was just dying to know what the grades were. And then all of a sudden he saw, when I told him this, a 1957 Topps Don Drysdale. And when I told him it wouldn't be graded because it showed evidence of trimming, he was like, man, I got ripped off. And it's just slightly smaller. When I put it next to my other 1957 cards, it's just a tad smaller than the other cards. And it shows you how times have changed. This was like I said, about 5 years ago. And the day after I got the grades, I remember I just went on eBay and bought a PSA 4 for like $40. So that's something you can't do today, just due to the prices. But those are the cards my brother gave me. And if you guys will indulge me for a few minutes, I'm going to turn around. I'm going to turn the camera around because I want to show off something else of a collection. All right, I'll be right back. Okay, camera's turned around. Thanks so much for sticking with me. I appreciate you letting me show off the baseball cards that my brother gave to me. My brother was really, he was really into my baseball cards. Unfortunately, my brother's no longer with us. He passed away 3 years ago. But he spent the last few years of his life living in Virginia, and then he spent the last year of his life living in Pittsburgh. And during those years, he would constantly be sending me photos, especially on weekends. He was at an antique store or at some type of swap meet, and he's showing me pictures of baseball cards. Our last trip together, we did several trips together. We did a lot of hockey trips. We did Eastern Canada. We did Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa. We did a Raleigh, North Carolina to see the Kings play. But my last trip to go visit, we went to Pittsburgh. And the Dodgers were in town, so we went to go see the Dodgers play the Pirates. Gave me an opportunity to see Pittsburgh. We went to the Clemente Museum, and he could not take his eyes off those Roberto Clemente cards. And I went to the Mazeroski wall without him. Also went up to the Andy Warhol Museum. I think I said the Mazeroski wall. And then we drove up to Cleveland to go see the Indians play. And we also went to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton. And we also went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum in Cleveland, which brings up my brother. And my brother was an enormous vinyl record collector. Now, I know some of us here collect other things. Personally, I only collect baseball cards. Yes, you see behind me, I have some autographed photos and I have sports memorabilia. I really don't call myself a collector of those things. I do love looking at them more than anything else in this world. And I do buy here and there. And some of us here collect comic books or coins or trains, stamps. I was at an antique store the other day and some guy was selling this amazing collection of model cars. And it's just interesting to see what people collect and how they collect and how similar it might be to card collecting. And in my brother's case, he collected vinyl records, as I've already mentioned to you. So I wanted to, in tribute to my brother, I wanted to show off one of his records today. So I wanted to start with our favorite band, and that's the Beatles. And I'm going to show you different examples of this cover because we're not talking about a Hannes Wagner card here. We could be talking about something like an Ed Plank card, so a T206 Ed Plank. So in 1966, the Beatles originally released a record in the US and Canada called Yesterday and Today. And here's a mock-up. This is a CD version of the cover that the Beatles wanted to use. And I'm going to try to get this glare out of here. So that is the cover. This cover is known as the butcher cover. You see some slabs of meat. You see some headless babies in there. And this is the cover the Beatles wanted to release. There we go. That's a lot better. I think you can see it like that. So people have written books about this. And when I was making notes for this video, I was kind of like going, this is going to be too long of a video. So I'm giving you the Cliff Notes version. So like I said, this cover was supposed to be released in 1966. Capitol Records, the record label that the Beatles sent out, they sent out 750,000 manufactured copies. 60,000 of them were sent out a few weeks earlier, record stores, promos, PR firms, entertainment type stuff. And when they got a look at this cover, people had a meltdown. Remember, this is the mid 60s. You look at this now and you might go, yeah, what's the big deal? But back then, people had a total meltdown. And it was so negative, Capitol decided to recall 750,000 records that were already sent out. So what they did eventually was this is my record, by the way. I bought this in the mid 70s. They instead put a new picture on the cover. Same white background, but now the Beatles are sitting on what's called the trunk cover. This is called the trunk cover case. Now, what happened was, as I mentioned, there's 750,000 records that got recalled. Well, when things get recalled, not everybody returns their stuff, including the photographer who took the photos for this record. So what happened was, instead of people returning the record, what they did was they got a copy of this photo and pasted it on top of the record. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here because I'm kind of rambling. So what happened was you would buy, I'm not going to show you this one. Let's show you this one. Okay. So same record. I kept it in the plastic wrap just because I don't want to be messing around with the record. But what happened is they pasted this photo on top of this photo. This is the butcher cover. So what happened was this was the cover that everybody wanted to go out. Instead, this was sent out. Excuse the glare. Instead, they sent this out. But instead of thrashing these records, they pasted this photo on top, 2 or 3 layers down. This record that I'm holding here is called The Second State. There are 3 states for this cover. The first state would be this record if it was completely unaltered, never touched, never anyone pasting anything on it. Instead, this is a third state because at one point, this second state was on it. So this is state 2, this is state 3. All right? So when you look at eBay or when you look at auctions, you will notice these records are extremely expensive. Ringo Starr sold his copy finally in 2015 for little less than $26,000. They don't generate the prices that a 52 Mantle would or a T206 Wagner would, but still, it's an interesting collection. Interesting how this record, which should have been this record, eventually got lazy. It became this record with this cover under it. So I just wanted to share that with you, that there are some similarities when it comes to collecting vinyl records as compared to buying sports cards, or in my case, or in your case, baseball cards. But in tribute to my brother, he would have turned 62 on Sunday. I wanted to share one of his records for him. I know that he would have gotten a huge kick out of seeing my YouTube channel and me showing off my baseball cards. And I know he would have been my first viewer for every video. So I don't know if he would have liked me showing off his records, but I get a kick out of it. So thanks for indulging with me. If you're still here, thanks so much. And we will catch you on the next video.